like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything.
Gentle loving hugs, and thanks for turning in to the Fibro Friends radio show here on healthinforadio.com, part of the Entertainment Global Media Network, broadcasting out of heavenly Clearwater, Florida. If you feel like doing nothing at all today, then just sit back or lie down. We're here to educate you with a full spectrum of information on fibro, advocate on the behalf of all Fibro Friends for fibro awareness and the need for more research, and support each other with laughter and love. New to fibro? Wonder what it is? Fibromyalgia is a complex chronic disorder involving a malfunction in how the brain processes pain, which leads to other multiple dysfunctions in the body. Some of the main symptoms of fibro are pain and fatigue, sleep disorder, memory and concentration, depression, digestive disorders, hypersensitivity. So today, you've tuned into Fibro Friends. So please welcome your host, Laura Rosa.
Hi, and welcome to another Fibro Friends here on Health Info Radio. I'm Laura Rosa, your host, and tonight I have with me my co-host, Kathy McGuire. As you can see, she's sitting to my left, we'll pretend. Say hi, Kathy.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. So, can you see yourself on camera? Are you able to watch it?
Oh, yeah, right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So we
Yeah,
matched tonight.
right.
We're both wearing black. I like that. That's great. We're in our new studio in Tampa. We moved out of Clearwater. So this is our first show here in the new Tampa studio, which is really exciting because it's nicer. So
Yeah, I was at the ribbon cutting yesterday. It was pretty exciting. No one had a full house, and everyone was very excited about the high-tech new studio.
It is
so
really great.
I think you may have to change your opening now because it says beautiful Clearwater or heavenly Clearwater, and you're not in heavenly Clearwater anymore.
That's a good point.
So, and Entertainment Global Media is now talkwad.com. So
see how much my co-host knows? She is up to speed at everything. That's why I've got her on tonight. The woman with the knowledge. So, how are your holidays, Kathy?
They were interesting.
Why is that?
Well, as you know, those of you who are fibro sufferers, or those of you who know fibro sufferers, which I'm assuming is the bulk of the listening audience,
Yes.
kind of know that depression is one of the issues that people who have fibro and other chronic disorders have to battle with on a daily basis. And I had a little bout of depression, which, even the average person who's perfectly healthy can have the holiday blues.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of thinking, is this the holiday blues or is this something more?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start asking yourself all these really intense questions about depression and fibro. And I know that you kind of experienced my different vibe at the Fibro Friends Christmas party.
Yes, that's correct. Which everybody has the place to do that and feel that way, and we're very open-minded when it comes to fibromyalgia because those things come out of the blue to us sometimes without our any control. It was a really fun, great party, and you just weren't there, which was totally fine. You were in the right place to be that way.
It was a very accepting and loving environment, and I did enjoy myself. I just, I'm usually fairly upbeat. If you find me tired or hungry, I'm not, but most of the time I'm fairly upbeat, and
I would say
I wasn't always that
time.
way, but I'm pretty much that way. I would say 80% of the time, which is pretty good for a fibro kid. Um, but it was, I was really having a hard time with depression over the past few months. You know, and I wasn't sure. Some of it was health related, of course. Some of it was work related, and I'm still going through my divorce, so that's been, of course, very stressful.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's probably a lot for anyone. But
Are you mumbling?
I'm sorry.
I'm losing you on my sound.
Oh, you are?
Now you're coming back. You kind of went into a bubble of water.
Okay. Now can you hear me?
You're great. Yeah. Try it again. You're
Okay.
doing good.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. I was saying that I don't know how much you lost, but I was saying that I was going through some health issues and some work issues and personal issues related to my ongoing divorce. So
Right.
I think I just was overwhelmed. That's the main word I have to say. I had this overwhelming feeling constantly, and I couldn't get rid of it. I just, no matter what I tried, I would be happy. I would try to be happy and positive, but it was just, I mean, that's what it felt like, overwhelming, just overwhelming. And
that's a tough spot to get out of, because overwhelming means that we have too much hitting us at one time.
Yeah, I had a discussion with one of the other fibro women at the Christmas party about it, and we asked the question to each other: does fibro bring on depression, or is depression part of fibro? And when do you know? And then when do you know? Do you need to adjust your medication?
Right.
Do you need medication? And it just so happened that I was going to be seeing my healthcare professional, one of my healthcare professionals, a few days later. So it was my pain management doctor, which people who go to pain management doctors know generally you go in and they do maybe take your blood pressure, your weight, and they as most doctors do, and they ask for pain level, and you're just usually getting another prescription for pain meds, and then you leave. It's usually not a long visit unless you have something particular to discuss. I'm fortunate, and I've been off of pain meds for, it'll be a year this month, and that's after being on them for 10 years. So
wow.
I have a little bit of experience of what being on pain meds is like, and dealing with different pain management doctors. And I really like the office I go to now. And I like the doctor a lot, because they knew my goal a few years ago was to try to gradually get off of pain meds, and they guided me through it. They encouraged me to seek alternative medicine, which a lot of doctors don't. And that's kind of what I do from coaching, like to get that started with it.
Kathy, can I interrupt you? Kathy, we can hardly hear you at all. Okay, let's call her back. Do you want me to give her her number? You got it? Okay.
Yeah.
You were going downhill. We were barely hearing you.
Okay. Let me try a different. Let me call back on a different phone. It may be my phone. I have a new phone, so
okay.
I'm still. I haven't used it a lot for talking, and I think I'm hitting some buttons on it or something.
Okay.
So it may be the reception where I am. I've got 5 bars, but I don't know why it's not working. So
Okay.
let me try a different phone.
Okay.
Let me try a different phone. Okay, I'll call right back.
Okay.
Talk about that article.
Okay. Are we still on the air?
And
I don't know if he's cut us down or we're still on the air. We're still on. Okay. So
okay. Why don't you read that article, and and then you can text me and I'll call you back. Or
okay.
I'll text you the phone number and you can call me back.
Okay. Good deal.
I'll text
Okay.
the studio the number 2. Okay. Bye.
All right.
Sorry.
Guys, we're getting a rough start. But in summary, we have Kathy McGuire as our co-host tonight, and we were talking about the holidays, and she was bringing up being hit hard with a bout of depression. And for those of you who are not aware of this awesome magazine that's put out quarterly, it's fmaware.org is the organization, and they have a magazine that they call Fibromyalgia Network. Let me see if I can hold it up. For those of you that are on can see this, looks something like that. Okay, I know that's probably terrible, but this the fall 2012 issue 99, they actually have an amazing article which is on depression and anxiety. Is your fibro to blame? And in this article, they discuss a variety of issues like fibromyalgia versus depression. And to summarize what the response there is, that we are, fibromyalgia people are predisposed to depression. And if we had had depression prior to fibromyalgia, then it's a double whammy. And the problems that doctors have with trying to get the right medications to work with fibromyalgia patients is that we tend to have much less serotonin in our brains than healthy or non-fibro people. Now, what I eventually learned was that most of the antidepressants, I thought they gave us more serotonin, but in actuality, what they do is send more energy to the serotonin that we have. So with not having very much and then having medication send more energy to our little bit that we have, we're not going to get a good impact of results from just taking the standard antidepressants. There's a variety of families that doctors pull from trying to get a good fit for any patient with depression. So this also goes on to talk about where they have tried pairing up different antidepressants and using them in tandem, and they're finding some really good results in that. And they also have some suggestions in how to increase your serotonin. Another interesting thing that in this, believe it or not, it's not even that long of an article. It's about 3 or 4 pages. But they talk about that we have serotonin in our blood, and that's usually how they measure our serotonin. But we also have serotonin in our brain, and as we know, that is the serotonin that has the most control over our moods and our depression and our non-depression. So they start to compare a variety of different medications that help, and also they bring in the spinal cord. And as of the latest news, and that fibromyalgia is a neurological disorder, and it basically affects the sheathing around the spinal cord. So it's always on the autonomic, fight or flight mode, making it so that our bodies are constantly using up a lot of our adrenals from our adrenal glands. Don't mean to make this such a medical show, but after years of reading, and I'm starting to get the full view of understanding the biology of fibromyalgia. So this is I would like to say something a little bit about this organization that puts this magazine out. Like I said, it's quarterly. But they are a sister organization to fibromyalgiaawareness.org, FMA, which is one of the biggest supporters for research for fibromyalgia, and they're all nonprofits. And what's really amazing is that 90% of all their funding goes directly to um, research. And their overhead and salaries or whatever they have is 10%. And a nonprofit that has an 80 to the actual cause and 20 for their overhead is considered excellent. So I am so impressed that they've made it to only using 10% to take care of the business end. Now, if you do want to receive this quarterly magazine, you go to their website, and I think they are requesting $30. But they do have the magazine online, which, so for those who can't afford it, it's a great place to go to read. And basically, their magazines focus on the latest research, who's doing what and what they're finding. So it really can keep you very current in knowing what's going on in the fibromyalgia world, about new medications. A lot of them are studies, and it's hard to discuss a study on a talk show because I was a psych major, and we did test and measures, and to understand how they appropriately do a study with the blind, double blind, and having all things being equal is kind of, it gets kind of complex. And they do bring it down to make it so that an average reader can understand it, but yet it's still difficult to transfer the information to you. And because I feel that I should be citing who said it, where they're doing it, and then it gets to be a very dry show. Unless you all just want to trust me that the credentials are there, we could go that way. But I do get a lot of fascinating information. I think if we all read this magazine just alone, I think we're going to be ahead of our doctors miles. And I say most. Obviously, there are doctors that are very interested in keeping up with what's going on in research and what's the new, modality. I mean, everybody seems to know that the new medications are Savella, Cymbalta, and Lyrica. But as we all know, we have a handful of symptoms in common, but there are about 75 other symptoms that go along with fibromyalgia, and each person has a sprinkle of those in there too, making each one of us so individual from another. So I factor that in when even doing a study. They're not ever going to get a group of fibromyalgia patients that are going to match up equally compared to doing, say, people with breast cancer in stage 2. That's pretty easy to do. But to get fibromyalgias that have not only the basic fibro symptoms, but the other symptoms that their body has triggered on top of that is just, I don't think that they're ever going to have the validity that most other tests and researches do. So it's a very difficult disorder to research accurately. And that is just my opinion here. So am I going to have my co-host back or not? Are we doing? Okay, maybe she texted me. Let's see here. Sorry. Okay, let's see what we got. She says, try me again, switchboard rooms. If it doesn't work, I will call you.
Hi, Mom.
So I won't read her number out loud because I'm sure with her lovely voice, she'll be getting lots of phone calls later. So we're going to use a different phone in the house of where she is right now. So no, she's not really sitting next to me. That was just me having fun. I never wanted to do a monologue show. I can assure you of that because I get tired of listening to my own voice. And to do that for an hour, I think that would be really painful for everybody. So I like the interaction. And I don't know if you guys get to hear all the funny sounds I hear, but there's a lot going on in this station. But Nolan Ray, the owner, is an amazing gentleman with a great sense for business who takes great care of his hosts and his shows. And I really enjoy working with him. And it's amazing what he's pulled off here in the short period of time that he has started up the station. To have a second one going is really phenomenal. So kudos to Nolan. So this is, you want me to call her? Oh, wow. Welcome. I miss you. I've just been having a great conversation with myself, it feels like.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's better?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
I think we're good. And I was kind of giving an overview what we were discussing, and you were talking about just being overwhelmed during the holidays with what you had going on, and then you were questioning when you felt about depression coming on, that you wanted to, how much did the fibromyalgia play into that, or did it at all? And pretty much after that, you talked about going to see your mental health provider, and
Yes.
I really couldn't hear what the outcome of that was.
Well, see, now I'm still having an echo. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay, well, I'm getting an echo. As long as you're understanding me, that's fine.
I am.
The healthcare provider took the time to talk to me, and wow, this is a really bad connection. I am so sorry, Laura.
Do you want us to
I'm
call
not
you
getting
back
a good
again?
connection at all.
All right. We're going to call you right back. So if you're getting echoed, you sound clear to us, but I know what it's like when you hear yourself reverberating back into the phone. So
Yeah. Right.
did we call her? All right, we're going to call you again. We'll make it through this show. Hang in there, guys. I apologize for our technical difficulties. This is no reflection on the studio. This would be a cell phone issue tonight. So it's all my hosts tend to be people with fibromyalgia, and I tell them, stay at home and call in because it's a lot to get up at night and get dressed and come out here. So I think I want to make it easy on them to appear on the show. Since it's a radio show, it really doesn't matter. But when we run into cell phone troubles, then that causes a big problem. Because the microphones never give us a problem. That's for sure. So it's the cell phones. Kathy, are you back? I hear little tinkling noises. So he's working on getting her back on the line, and she is ringing, I believe. Don't you love too much information? I think I'm in one of those modes. So as I can go back and talk about the FM Aware magazine, Fibromyalgia Network. I'm looking here to see if they've got a phone number in case I didn't give you the correct website. But they are one of my favorite resources, and they were very wonderful in being a facilitator when I started up a support group in my area, which we're just going into our 5th year now. They're very prepared. They've got all the pamphlets and posters when we go out and make public appearances for awareness and that kind of thing. And okay.
Okay, I'm trying again. Is it any better?
I'm fine with you. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's try this again. So, I went to the healthcare professional, who is my pain management doctor, and she reviewed my records, and I've never really taken depression medication for depression, and I had not been on pain medicines for a year after 10 years of being on them.
Okay.
So and I do take Savella.
Okay.
And she felt like it was best that I did not add a medication for depression. We had a long talk.
Good.
We talked about what was going on, what I was feeling like, and she felt like it was situational depression, which is like saying holiday blues, or this is related to your lifestyle.
Correct.
So that was, I thought that was really good, because I kind of went there anticipating, well, maybe I need something, maybe I'm just not able to cope, and I was trying everything I could. I was doing massage therapy. I was talking to people, both professionals as well as friends that were helping me out, and I just got to the point where I thought, well, maybe I just need some medication, which is okay. It's okay to be at that point. And I was very fortunate. I had a great healthcare professional who guided me through this situation and didn't put me on something I didn't need to take.
That's really important.
And she recommended that I do some further therapy, which I did, and and I made it through. But it was with the help of really good friends such as you and other people that listened to me and just said, you can do this, you can make it through. It's okay to feel. I think just hearing it was okay to feel that way.
Absolutely.
Was good, because I felt guilty for feeling depressed.
Now that's putting, insult to injury there to yourself. To feel another negative emotion.
It is, but you want to have like an attitude of gratitude about life and be grateful for what you do have.
Of course.
But at the same time, it's okay. I finally realized it was okay to feel depressed. I mean, things were rough. They were rough financially and physically, and I found out my health insurance was going to stop on January 1st, which is a fibro. Suffer is a huge fear.
Yes.
It's this overwhelming fear of that. And, that's big. So, which I'll work through that too. I mean, I feel confident now I'm going to work through that, whatever happens, whether it's Cobra or, whatever happens. So, but that was a big fear to find that out, that I was no longer going to have health insurance. I'm fortunate in that I have not been without health insurance for over 20 years.
You are fortunate. But to have somebody, to say, hey, you're losing your insurance benefits when you had the ability to seek out medical treatment when you needed it, to have the ability to afford medication through health insurance, it would be devastating to think that everything had to come out of pocket, especially when we're not able to generate income like most people, non-fibro people, live. So what do you do? And show up at the emergency room every 3 weeks? So you're right. It ties your hands considerably to take care of your health. So that in itself was enough to put anyone in a tailspin. But it was on top of the holidays. And like you said, you're separated, you have children, and there's a lot of factors and emotions that go into that. And the holidays are a time that brings up the memories of the family events and, what was and what isn't. So, I mean, I certainly can see the situational depression diagnosis as being very appropriate for everything that you're dealing with. And I think you also had to relocate too, didn't you?
Yeah, I've made a decision. I'm very fortunate in that I now have a job working with a company, and so doing something I love to do, working with artists and charities and businesses, which is where my heart has been for a very long time. And it's a type of job where I'm going to be driving a lot around town, and it's mostly commission based, of course. So I'm basically kind of being a gypsy for a while, and I'm fortunate I have some really good people that have opened their homes to me and given me the key to their house and allow me to stay in that part of town when I'm working that part of town.
That's great.
Which with the gas prices is really nice. Tampa's not real big, but driving across town, it can suck your gas up real quickly and your time up more importantly. And that for me has been one of the big considerations is, I want to have as many appointments in a day as I can.
Sure.
And I don't want to waste time in traffic for an hour driving across town.
Right.
So, time management time management skill is a real important part of being a fibro sufferer too. You've got to make the most of your time and when you're feeling well. So,
yes.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. I agree. Yes,
okay.
We don't have as much workable time as we did before we had fibromyalgia. That's certainly true. We get exhausted much quicker.
Yeah, I try to schedule my days where, I sometimes even look at the weather to see what the weather's going to be like for the next few days when I schedule appointments. Right. If it's real rainy and yucky, you sometimes don't feel as well,
Of course.
So you just have to think about a lot of other factors that a healthy person doesn't have to think about, and you want to have time to chill and to not constantly be going. I mean, there's some times with this job I know I'll have to be, and that's okay too, because at least I'm doing what I love to do. But the depression thing is something that it's hard for people who are around fibro people to understand, maybe, or anyone who has chronic issues. I mean, if you're dealing with a long-term illness of any kind, or if you're unfortunate enough to have, God forbid, something like cancer, it's very difficult for people around them to understand the mood swings and the what goes through somebody's mind. I know you and I have had a lot of discussions about what we were like before we had fibro and all of the things we could do.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating when we get stressed because we can't be that power woman, as much as we could before.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. So, I mean, I look at, some of the things I did before, I don't know how I did it.
Can you move your mouth closer to the phone? You're coming in and out again. That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Before I used to travel across country a lot, and I would drive 24 hours nonstop.
Right.
And, crazy stuff. I couldn't even imagine doing that now.
Right.
But that was what my job required until I did it.
Right.
So, but there are things now you have to really think about, just for your health and also for your mental well-being. And I think fibro, a lot of it is your mental well-being, because that affects your attitude, which affects how you feel. And that's really rough. And some people don't understand, what all we have to go through. And it's important to have people around you that accept you and love you despite your lovely flaws.
Yes, we had plenty beforehand, and now our bucket overfloweth.
Yeah. I mean, let's just face it. Women are really hard to put up with anyway. So
you must have a man in the house.
Yeah. It's like all the guys are going, yeah. So we won't argue with that. But not that we're not worth it, but having fibro certainly adds another level to our makeup. And I think about those commercials for a certain line of hair care and makeup. It starts with the L, and it's because we're worth it commercials. And I
Yes.
just kind of say I like to think sometimes that I know there's a part of me that's a big old mess, but the rest of me is worth it. So
So you put your energy there.
yeah. So it's kind of like you really love somebody, and you kind of have to put up with all of it.
Right. You take the good and the bad, and you take for everything they are and everything they're not, and that is
Yes.
true love. You're right. We don't need to get down that road, but I understand your comparison. So
what are some of the depression issues you've had to deal with, Laura, if you don't mind talking about
I
it?
don't mind at all. Before I had fibromyalgia, I did deal with depression. I was a single mother raising 4 children, working full time. I was paralegal.
Wow.
And, with 4 kids, and one of my children has a disability, and my other 3 were gifted, still are, but that they are a little more challenging to raise because they're very bright and they can really test your nerves. And not having that other parent in the house to back you up, it can get really hard. And then keep a house up. But we managed to always have a vacation in the summers. And they all went through scouting. They all played a musical instrument. They all played sports. And the thing is now that, 3 of them are, of age, and one's married, one's engaged, and they're adults now. And I look back and think, I know it was hard, but gosh, I miss it. But how quickly forget the stressors. You go to work, you deal with that, and then I'd have to drive home, stop at the daycare, get my daughter. She was like 3 or 4, but when I ended up putting her in daycare, so I was also diagnosed with situational depression, and I think I considered resistant to depressant medication. So I had a wonderful psychiatrist who worked with me, trial and error. It took about 6 months, and what worked for me was a medication called Effixor, and I think that particular medication, the difference is it had like a dual inhibitor, so it worked at 2 levels in the brain, unlike the rest. And when he hit it, it was the magic pill, and the depression lifted. I was able to cope and deal with things with much more ease. And so I was very content with my life, and having that extra help was wonderful. Then the car crash came, and that was the beginning of the end. That was in '04, and I managed to work another couple years, but I went through 7 surgeries from the car crash. Inevitably, the pain never went away, and it was finally diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And my doctor was very insistent that I get off the Effixor and go to Cymbalta. And I was told that Cymbalta is the newer version of Effixor, but it has some elements in there that will help the fibromyalgia as well. And my transference from one to the other was very smooth, it's not fun to go off one and start another. You usually really mess with your depression. Now, I still, I would say the past 2 years, my depression was significantly high, and the Cymbalta wasn't working. And I talked to my healthcare provider, and I'm like, it's a waste, and you've got me at the highest level. I don't even want to be on it, because I've recently found out, I was telling them when you were off the air that we carry less serotonin. And so these antidepressants are supposed to, I thought, give us more. But in fact, all they do is give what we have more energy. And in this article that we were talking about, it says that 50% of FM patients do not respond to the antidepressants for this reason. So I asked my physician if I could come off it. I'd like to just try it. And she said that I don't take anybody off medication after September. If we're in September, I won't think about it till January. And I'm like, what? But in hindsight, oh my gosh, I totally got it, because the holidays were hell. I mean, I really wanted to make a difference this year, and I took on some doing some, what's the word I'm trying to use? Taking on, I think it turned out to be like 10 different families to help.
You did a lot of community projects.
I did.
The last quarter of the year. You really did.
And that's my passion. That's my burning desire. That's my calling. And with my finances being so limited, living on disability, for my family, I was doing homemade gifts. Well, I'm not very good at managing my time. Some of you might catch on that we don't start exactly on time, and that would be because of my not being here. So that is, by the way, a New Year's resolution is to get that one figured out. So, but after I've read this article, I mean, I'm so impressed with, they give so many suggestions that what can increase your serotonin. And it talks about, we have serotonin in our blood, we have serotonin in our brain. Are they the same? We don't know. So they're only testing our blood. But they're even talking about adding, in one place, lithium to some of the to what your antidepressant, that it has, and that is a very, very old drug. And when I hear the word lithium, I think of people who are like schizophrenic or have severe mental illness. But they said the downside is you have to be monitored by a doctor and, checked every 6 weeks. But they're finding that people are getting very high results by adding the lithium. But they give many examples of things that can help depression. If you're, Cymbalta and Savella are very similar. I'm not sure much about Lyrica, how the chemical compounding of it as far as depression goes. But what I'm reading here is there are a lot of things that they're finding, and this magazine, all their information comes from their research that they're doing. It's not a doctor's just opinion. It's based on factual, test studies, and they do mention some over-the-counter drugs they find. And I say this with caution. If you're already taking a load of medications or supplements or whatever, please talk to your healthcare provider. Do not just add these on your own volition. But like melatonin is obviously great for sleep.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful when you start mixing all natural medication with prescription.
Please hear this. Yes.
You have got to talk to your healthcare provider, specifically your healthcare provider. You can initially discuss it with your pharmacist, but you really need to talk to your healthcare provider.
Yes.
And even if you have something added, if you add a supplement, if you go to one pharmacy, which you should if you have healthcare issues, have them add that supplement to what you're taking on a regular basis so that the pharmacist is aware of it.
Yes.
I just had an issue with an allergy on top of things over the holidays. I was put on an antibiotic that had sulfa in it. And I'm allergic to it. And for some reason, my doctor didn't catch it. The pharmacy didn't have it listed. And I broke out in I was like I had measles. I always
wondered what happened to people who took sulfur when they're allergic. I didn't know what the reaction was.
I wasn't. All my mom could remember is it made me nervous. Evidently, I had the reaction like at age 3 or 4. And, so I've always avoided it. And I didn't realize that she was like, have you taken this antibiotic? And I'm like, no. So I just didn't think it was any big deal. I didn't
Right.
ask her if it was sulfa because it said on my, she just totally overlooked it. And
Oh, man.
boy, that was fun. That was quite a try. So then, of course, you had to go on about a steroid. But steroids can affect your moods as well.
Yes, they can. That's mentioned in this article.
That was on top of everything else, not good. And something I want to say is, if you read anything about holistic medicine, alternative medicine, now my mind just went. I'm having a fibro fart. Okay, I think his name is Mike. I just remember his name is Mike, but he does an article. I used to get his stuff all the time on natural medicine.
Okay.
A lot of people are going to know who I'm talking about, but one of the things, when I was Googling a few things before tonight's show, I knew this already, but something I wanted to bring up is, if you have any issue with depression, whether or not you're a fibro sufferer, if you have a friend who's going through depression,
Right.
encourage them to go out in the sun for 10 or 15 minutes a day. You can even look up on websites and find out how much sun is healthy for you without getting cancer risk in
Right.
your part of the world.
Right.
Because they have done studies and have found that when people go to a holistic doctor, alternative medicine, and they do blood work, one thing they test for is vitamin D. And
Yes,
they find that so many people have vitamin D deficiencies because people don't go outside because we're scared of the sun. We're scared of cancer. We're freaked out now into not getting enough sun, and we have such a sedentary lifestyle.
Yep.
We're inside air conditioned and heated offices and homes, and
almost,
unless you play sports or something like that, you just don't get enough.
almost everybody with fibromyalgia is also more prone to being lower with vitamin D.
Yes.
On top of
definitely.
that, so we have a double whammy again.
Yeah,
Okay.
and even with like with the Savella, you have to watch your sunlight exposure as
Right.
well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's really important. I know my father actually had a little bout of depression, and the doctor recommended he sit outside, and he did for a while, and it made him feel better. So
Yeah.
I encouraged him also. I said, Dad, you need to get out and just go sit on the front porch, and when the sun's on it in the morning, and get a little, just 15, 20 minutes a day, and he started doing that, and he felt so much better. This is a man who was out in the sun every day. He rode his bike to work, or he walked to work, and he never drove a car. So I think he did a few years in his 20s,
cool.
but he basically has never driven a car. So he spent his whole life being outdoors, and off and on throughout the day. So that was taken away from him when he got older, and I think it just caused him to have some depression. So
yeah.
it's amazing. I have friends that are really, really into alternative holistic lifestyles, and that's something they preach about, your bare feet on the ground, and getting the sun, and it's something us city dwellers don't probably do near enough of, and that's
of course,
that's something that and that's why people have the winter blues, because there's not as much sun in certain parts of the country.
Seasonal depression. Yes,
exactly. So that's another little tidbit. For those of you who've heard that before, take it to heart again and share it with somebody. Make it a goal to share that with someone this week that when they talk about feeling down, especially if you're in a part of the country that does have a lot of gray weather.
Yes.
To try and get a little bit of sun when there is sun. So.
And we have just a minute or two to wrap up, and I'd like to share a story that came out at our support group meeting. Somebody shared a story of, she called it emptying your cup, and when your cup, and I think we can all understand what that means, your cup is so full because you've got so much going on in your world, and her recommendation was to have a buddy, and you call your buddy up and say, listen, is this a good time for you? Is it what I need from you? Could you just let me vent and let me empty my cup? I don't need you to respond. I don't need you to agree. I just need you to listen. And I need you to listen like my life is on the line, because sometimes I think it gets that serious for me. And if they're in agreement, hopefully, you can have that set up. Then you do your deal. Now, after you're done, you have to choose whether you want some feedback or to say, look, I feel great. Thank you for your time. Or, and if you want to say, hey, what do you hear coming out of me? Am I crazy? Then that's fine too. However you want to end it, but it has to be somebody that you trust and that is willing to truly show up for you. And sometimes just that 30 minutes can really lighten your load by just throwing up on somebody emotionally and making sure that they don't carry the negativity off with them as well. So that was a really neat little tidbit she shared with us. But our time has come to an end, Kathy. And again, thank you so much for being on our show. Sorry for all the calling back and forth. Just part of the network cellular world we live in. So I want to say thank you and good night to you and our audience. And any last words?
I was just going to say what you just shared. That's what got me through the holidays.
Really?
People willing to listen to my throwing up on them.
Yep, that's my terminology. Okay, guys, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll be back next week. I think our new show time is 7:30, and so we are counting down to our last 2 seconds. Have a good evening. Take care.
Remember, fibromyalgia can strike any person at any age. If you feel that you may be suffering from fibromyalgia, please contact your medical provider as soon as possible for proper diagnosis and a treatment plan that works for you. We are not a replacement for professional medical advice, but we are your Fibro Friends for advocacy and education and support. We encourage you to share via email, Facebook, or Twitter through a link from any of our shows that can be found on our website at fibrofriendsradioshow.com and on Facebook at Fibro Friends Radio Show, with your doctors, support system of friends and family, and your fellow Fibro friends. Remember, laughter is still the best medicine, so share the Fibro funny today and keep a smile on your face and in your heart. So pass this Fibro Friends smiling, gentle hug full of love to someone in pain today, because it's always the love that heals.